This is a map that hides the countries where being gay is illegal. There are about 70 countries today that outlaw same-sex relations, meaning if you're caught or accused of having sex with the same sex or seen displaying romantic affection for someone of the same sex, like even if it's just holding hands, you may get fined, imprisoned, stoned, whipped, harassed, and even killed in these countries. I wanted to know why these countries have these laws and these negative attitudes towards the LGBT, and did some digging. First, I found this site where it briefly explains why same-sex relations are a crime in each of these countries. Offenses accused range from being indecent and lewd to violating Sharia law and committing sodomy, also known as buggery. Here's a graph that summarizes the offenses on why you can be legally punished for being gay. We can see that half of these countries say that same-sex relations is indecent, unnatural, and against nature. Surprisingly, there was quite a lot of countries that listed homosexuality as sodomy. But these accusations didn't really explain why having same-sex relations is seen as bad in these countries. Why is it indecent? Why do they think it's unnatural? Why does the Sharia law even ban it? Why is it considered sodomy? So I looked into each of these countries and tried to identify what was influencing them to think this way. Here are the reasons I found. The sin of Sodom in the biblical story of Sodom and Gomorrah is interpreted to be homosexuality. The word sodomy derives from the name of the city, Sodom, and usually denotes anal or oral sex. Why? It's because many people think that the sin of Sodom is acts of unnatural sex. In the story, the men of Sodom wanted to have sex with the male visitors who were angels, and God destroys the city. So people conclude that God destroyed them because men wanted to have sex with men. Men usually have sex with men through anal or oral sex, hence homosexuality being associated with sodomy. However, Ezekiel 16 verse 49, which is also in the Old Testament, explains the sin of Sodom. This was the guilt of your sister Sodom. She and her daughters had pride, excess of food, and prosperous ease, but did not aid the poor and needy. They were haughty and did abominable things before me. Therefore I removed them when I saw it. Clearly, the sin of Sodom was that they were inhospitable and arrogant. If it says anything about homosexual relations, it shows the type of homosexual sex that was most common then, which were unequal and violent ones. So yeah, lots of countries have sodomy laws because of this story, which I feel is a dumb reason. Not because it's for a religious reason, but because I believe the story isn't even about sex, but about not hurting people different from you and being respectful to others. Reason number 2. A country is an Islamic country. The Quran also references the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, but explains the sin of Sodom differently. In chapter 7, verses 80 to 81, it states that desiring the same sex is bad. We also sent Lot. He said to his people, "Do you commit lewdness such as no people in creation ever committed before you? For you practice your lusts on men in preference to women. You are indeed a people transgressing beyond bounds." Most Islamic countries also have Sharia law, which is based on Islam and the Quran. Since the Quran says that same-sex attraction and sodomy is bad, the country forbids it and sees homosexuality as immoral. Number 3. A country is heavily Christian, where people probably look at the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, Adam and Eve, and the verses in Leviticus, Romans, 1 Corinthians, and 1 Timothy, and interpret them to say that homosexuality is a sin. Number 4. Colonization, where the colonizers have laws like sodomy, which influences the places they colonized. Number 5. In Africa, homosexuality is seen as an evil from the West, which is in part influenced by Christian ideology. Number 6. The country is socially conservative, in the sense that being LGBT disrupts traditional cultural norms and gender roles. Different cultures have different views on sex. Some cultures think that sex should only be between husband and wife, or should be only be done with the purpose of procreation. Number 7. Homosexuality is seen as an illness or form of insanity. Number 8. The country is unfamiliar with concepts of different sexualities because it's taboo, and their government forbids anyone to write or teach about it. Number 9. People have negative views about being gay because homosexuality is associated with bad things like crime, prostitution, witchcraft, and debauchery. And number 10. People think that sin, including homosexuality, causes disasters and wrath from God. For example, if there's a tsunami that destroys a village, people may think that God is judging them for their sin. Since they view homosexuality as a sin, they will ban it in hopes of preventing more disasters. And those are the 10 reasons that I found that influence countries to outlaw same-sex relations. Here's a graph to summarize it all, which may or may not be helpful. So yeah, that's all my research for this week. I hope you learned something too. Next week, I'll be exploring why homosexuality was ever seen as a mental illness by understanding it through the lens of psychoanalysis.